Good morning, Raleigh. Thanks for having me here today. It's much appreciated. I'm Brian Thomason. I head up the solutions engineering team at a little company called Anchor. I always say that's Anchor with an E on it. I don't know, I guess they were going with some French type on site. I don't know how they named it. But I've been working there about 8 months now, but I've known the guys that started the company for 11 years now. I worked with them with a startup called Eucalyptus back in the day. I don't know if anybody here heard of Eucalyptus. Oh yeah, we got one. A lot of them left me behind, unfortunately, to go start a little company called Ansible. I'm sure we've got some Ansible people in the house. I know we got some in the back corner there. They left me behind, and I got snatched up by HP, so my path wasn't as fun as theirs, but I worked my way back to them. Today I'm going to be talking about SBOM management and securing your software supply chain. How many people raise their hands have heard of SBOM? More than I thought, actually. So I guess my work there is done. Thanks for having me, guys. So we'll try to keep it interesting. We're going to go over the what, the why, the how, and then I didn't have a good name for the fourth section, so I wanted to invite the future photos. We're going to be next steps, things of that nature. But let's start with the what. So many of you already know what an SBOM is, a software bill of materials. Many people will describe it as an ingredients list, much like you see on your spaghetti sauce, but not really an apropos analogy because it's more of a detailed list, right? Because if you got an ingredients list and it says tomatoes, is it these tomatoes, luscious, ripe, beautiful, fresh tomatoes? Or is it these kind of out of a can, maybe they were ripe and fresh at one time, or does your software contain these poor imitations of tomatoes here? So an SBOM kind of gives you detailed information about what's in your software, specifically at least these 7 fields. So these were defined by NIST, I believe it was, as far as the definition of an SBOM. You have your supplier name. So if you're thinking about a Linux package, that'd be Red Hat, that'll be your supplier. Component name would be the name of the package itself. More importantly, the version of that component. Other unique identifiers, that could be like the URL to the web page for the project, things of that nature. Dependency relationships, both direct dependencies and transitive dependencies for the libraries that are contained in your application. And then the last 2 fields are for those who actually produce the SBOM itself, the author of the SBOM data, and then the timestamp for that SBOM. So those 7 fields define what an SBOM is, or a software bill of materials. As far as formats go, there's 3. You've got SPDX, which was the Linux Foundation. You've got CycloneDX, which is another dominant in the field. And then NIST came up years ago with SWID. It's kind of lost its popularity. We won't talk much about it, but if you're an IoT person, you probably run into it, so I want to at least mention it there. But the 2 dominant in the software world now are SPDX and CycloneDX. And you can see them here on the screen. Not very interesting. I'm going to follow an interesting generative AI discussion to show you text files. But as you can see, they come in, you've got the 2 formats, but you've got 4 different ways to display them roughly. You have a tabular format, which is good for if you want to just print it out for yourself to read it as a human being. Same for the tag, key value tag pairs on the right. But then on the bottom, you've got JSON and XML. I don't know why anybody would still use XML. I didn't like it 20 years ago when I had to parse it, but it's there for you freaks that still want to use it. But mostly you'll see JSON output, and that's usually what will define an SBOM in one of those 2 aforementioned formats. So just to quickly recap for those the 4 people that didn't know what an SBOM was coming in here today. It lists software in your project, your own software that you're building, dependencies of dependencies, direct dependencies, transitive dependencies. It has to have a minimum number of those 7 fields as defined before, but there's plenty more in certain SBOM formats. And then the 2 formats that are standard these days are SPDX, CycloneDX. You can output those in different formats, with JSON being the most predominant. So we know the what, that's kind of boring. Let's talk more about the why. Why do you care about an SBOM? Why does anybody comment on an SBOM? Why would you want to build an SBOM? The first answer is the obvious answer, because you're going to have to, probably, moving forward. Some of you already do. If you work with medical devices, the FDA, for example, already today requires you to provide an SBOM for any software you sell to them. or shipping any medical device firmware. NIST has provided guidance for their software secure supply chain definition. It requires SBOM creation there, and if you're wanting to sell to the federal government, last September, the new FedRAMP language mentioned that they will soon start requiring SBOM. So if you sell software to the government or any government agency, you're going to have to do this. So that's one reason. The other reason is security, right? You want to know what's in your spaghetti sauce, right? And the only reason I chose this one here, because the little twist on there, if you can see it, I hope, is because it reminded me of the first ever demotivational poster that I laughed at back in like the 90s. I'm showing my age here. And I just wanted to show that. There's no other reason for this to be in here, but it made me laugh about 20 years ago, so I put it in here. And I would like to argue that this does make some sense, because it could be a cold day on the beach. We don't know what the temperature is, so wearing the Darth Vader black outfit may be apropos in this situation. And we do not know if that brittle water filter he has actually takes the saline out of the water or not. It may actually make perfect sense. It's cold and he's thirsty. But that meant absolutely nothing, so we'll pretend I didn't show that slide. And going back to the why, security. You created an SBOM. Why are you creating an SBOM? Well, it allows you to improve and secure your software supply chain. So if you practice good SBOM management means generating, uploading, storing, and cataloging your SBOMs that you create for your own software that you're building in your organization today. It allows you to maintain a better security posture around vulnerability management, so it allows you to track vulnerabilities in your own software, but more importantly, all the open source dependencies that you pulled in, sometimes unwittingly, into your software, which we'll talk about in a minute. And going back to the requirements from the federal government, it also allows you to comply with certain regulations. You can apply NIST protocols against the software you build, pass or fail there, make sure you're not pushing software out into the public that fails, but also internal policy compliance. So even if you're a private organization, you're only selling to enterprises, you don't care anything about the government. Let's say your company has a mandate that you can't ship GPL software, God forbid. You can actually put a gate against your SBOM and do not allow it to push any software out into the world that has that license in it, for example. Or say you want to make sure that any dependencies you're shipping with your product are no older than N-2. You can do a policy check against that. So SBOMs, having those ingredients, much like with our food, we often ignore them, but it's kind of important. So that's the what, the why. We know what an SBOM is. We kind of know why we should do it, either because we have to or because we should to improve our security posture. But for those that are new to SBOM, how do you go about doing this within your organization? First of all, you got to create it. So the easiest way to do that is just download an open source scanner. There's many out there. The two that are kind of dominant are SIFT and Trivy. Any SIFT users in the... So we all knew what an SBOM was, but nobody's using them. See? That's why I'm here, guys. You got to start doing it. All right? Any Trivy? Oh, that hurts my heart. There's more Trivy users here today. So we at A4 actually author SIFT, so I'm mostly going to be talking about it. The Trivy great too. But download yourself an open source scanner. Skip a little ahead there. Kick the tires a little bit, buildable on your local machine. It's very trivial to do. You can just point it at either a file system, like a root file system of a VM, or you can point it to a container registry, and it'll build an SBOM in minutes out of that piece of software. You can open it up, explore the various formats, figure out what it does, what's supported. Once you kick the tires and you're ready to move on, you're going to want to build, excuse me, I missed my slide there. You're going to want to build it into your pipeline. You don't want to be manually creating SBOMs moving forward at any scale that's going to become too difficult to manage and operate. We recommend at Anchor building it into every major stage of your DevOps tool chain. For example, if you've got a Node.js application, you can actually put it integrated into GitHub at the source code repository level. When you kick off a build in Jenkins, we had CloudBees here earlier, you can integrate it directly into CloudBees, generate it there. If you're doing Kubernetes applications, which a lot of people here raised their hands to earlier, a great place is to integrate it with your container image registry. And deployment, that's more of the Ansible side of things. I don't see that as often, but runtime is also very important because you want to make sure that no changes have occurred your image should be somewhat mutable, so if any changes are happening, you want to be monitoring those at the runtime level. But if you're just getting started, we recommend the build phase, right? Regardless of what build tool you're using, Jenkins or otherwise, it's very easy at that phase to build an SBOM, output it in one of these two formats in JSON, and then store it somewhere. So if you're just getting started, just take that posture, because whether you want to or not, eventually you're going to have to. Government requirements or other company requirements. For example, if you're selling even enterprises, they're eventually going to start saying, hey, where's the SBOM? What's in your stuff? What licenses does it contain? And if you, 2-3 years down the road from now, you're going to kind of have peg on your face if you're not prepared for this. So it's good to start now. And so that's why I said the future, probably kind of a bad label for this, because the future's kind of now. SBOM management's already here, it's just in its infancy. Obviously, we've created an SBOM management tool called Anchor Enterprise, or I wouldn't be here talking about it today. It allows you to create, upload, store, catalog all of your SBOMs. And what does that do for you? Well, the list of things I talked about before, probably the most important thing it does for you is artifact discovery. It surfaces all of those open source dependencies that you normally don't care about until a log4j comes and ruins your day. And now your boss comes to you and he's like, which of our 50 pieces of software have an exposed version of log4j in it? And you're like, most of them? All of them? Well, we thought when we were all getting ready for log5j, right, what was the next one? And then the other day, XC kind of reared its ugly head and almost hit us, right? If it weren't for that network engineer kind of having some OCD and noticing a 0.4 second delay in logging into his SSH server, we'd probably have another mess on our hands. And it's inevitable that it's going to happen again. So NPM, no package management, everybody familiar with Node? I love this slide. We need to update it. It's kind of a year old now. This was March of last year. But it just shows one language and the amount of open source packages that have been made available over the past decade. This started in late 2010. It wasn't until 2013 that it even started hitting its stride. And then look, now we have 32 million Node.js packages out there. No human being, no matter how good their brain is, and certainly not mine, can manage that, right? You need a system in place to track all of those dependencies, their transit dependencies, and the versions associated with them so that you can expose these vulnerabilities 0 day when they happen. Last, and certainly not least though, another reason to do SBOM management is distribution. Alluded to it a bit before. But people are going to come to you and say, hey, you have an SBOM for the software you create. They're not going to want you to email it to them. It's not going to look very professional, right? So if you have that might work for now. Like I say, store it somewhere for now, email it for now. But you might want to look into the near future, get a management system, much like Anchor Enterprise, which gives you role-based access controls where you can create read-only accounts for your customers. And you can say, hey, yeah, you bought product XYZ from us. Here's a login. You can come download all the SBOMs for every version we've ever created. Makes it very, very trivial to do that. Now, a lot of you, even after hearing everything I just said, you're zoning out, drinking your Dr. Pepper, and you're like, I'm never going to need an SBOM. It's way more boring than that last talk. I wish this guy could get off the stage. But you're going to need it, trust me. This is coming. Whether you sell to the government or not, it's coming. If you do sell to the government, it's coming soon. So just prepare. Insurance actually is being talked about in this space as well. For example, if you sell a piece of software to someone and Log4j is in it, your company can be held liable. Well, the insurance for your company is going to be a lot more expensive if you can't prove to that insurance company you have a security posture to prepare for these things, and that all starts with SBOM. They're boring, but they're important. And last, and maybe least, depending on what you think of your customers, they're going to ask at some point. They're going to, what's in your spaghetti sauce, man? You know, what's in it? Is it the crappy tomatoes or is it the good tomatoes? So, in closing here today, what can you do? Kind of what we've already said, I'm just going to go over real quick. Create your own SBOMs. Do it internally in your organization to start. Make sure you do it in an automated fashion after you've learned how to do it manually. Ask your vendors for their SBOMs. It makes it look like your security posture as an organization is higher than maybe it really is, right? That makes you look good. Store them somewhere. We recommend Anchor Enterprise, but store them somewhere, even if that's just an S3 bucket or on a file share within your organization. Expect in the future, though, to have to distribute those in some same manner and get ready for the next Log4j because it is coming. It's just a matter of when. So thank you very much for having me. I really would wish everybody go to anchor.com, sign up for a free trial. If you have your AWS account, you run it here on AWS account, get the tires for 15 days for free. And if you like it, give us a ring. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Any questions?